Hey, well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Friday Lunch and Learn sponsored by the Do Space. My name is Julie, and I'll be your facilitator this afternoon. It's good to see a lot of familiar names back with me today. We are going to continue talking about pivot tables. So our second consecutive Lunch and Learn on pivot tables. Last week we looked at a lot of the built-in analysis that the pivot table can calculate for you. This week we're going to focus on a couple of different things. So the first thing I want to show you is how you can build your own or create your own measurement within PowerPoint and the Analyze tools. And then we're going to go on and we're going to look at creating a dynamic dashboard in Microsoft Excel for a pivot table. I did email you a template about a half an hour ago. So if you didn't check your email, go ahead and pop into the email that you registered for the webinar with, and you can follow along with me. If you would like, feel free to post questions in the chat, or you can turn your microphone on to ask questions as well. So the template that I emailed to you is the Kevin Cookie Company Performance Dashboard. Kevin's Cookie Company Performance Dashboard. Just to let you know, this particular activity for the dashboard that is, it was not created by me. There is a gentleman by the name of Kevin Stratvert that has a lot of YouTube videos out there. He does share his files with you. And it allows you to share them out with other people. So the origination of this activity came from his YouTube video, although I may put some a little bit of variance in it from here to there. So just to let you know, I am giving Kevin Stratvert compliments for this particular activity. So in this workbook that I sent you, there are 3 worksheets. So we have our performance dashboard. And what's going to happen is we are going to, time permitted, we are going to end up with 3 graphs on the dashboard, along with 2 slicers and a timeline. So if you haven't worked with slicers and a timeline in the past, what those accomplish for you is they are a filter that allows you to look at different variants by selecting the items on the filter. So it's a fancy filter allowing you to manipulate the 3 charts that we'll be inserting throughout my demonstration today. On the second worksheet, I have the original data that we are going to use. So that begins in obviously A1, and I'm going to go ahead and just do the control and the down arrow, and that will take me to A701. That is our last line of data. And then I'm going to go ahead and do the control and the right arrow. That will take me over to column G, and the up arrow will take me back up to G1. So we have 700 lines of data that we'll be working with originally. The fields in this particular data are the country, the product, the units sold, the revenue, the cost, the profit, and the date. In this data, we have dates ranging from 2019 to 2020. If you look at the new data, let's just go ahead and see how many lines of data we have here. I'll go back up to A1. So we just hit the control and the down arrow. It looks like we have 525 lines of sales from 2021. I have to go to my chat. I see I have a question. That's odd that you were not on the list originally. Do you know when you signed up for the webinar?
I,
What's
I'm
that?
not sure. I could have also used my personal email, but I just happened to see it today. I might not have even completed the sign up process, but I know I had it on my like Facebook
Got
list. So
If you
sorry.
have, no, you're fine. If you have the Zoom link, you signed up for it somehow.
Okay, maybe
I
my personal.
Yep, I just sent it to you.
Thank you. Sorry to interrupt.
No worries, no worries. So we're gonna start on the data ribbon. And on the data ribbon, anytime that you have a data array, you want to go ahead and put this into a table. So to insert a table, I'm just going to click inside of the data. I'm going to go to the insert ribbon. And at any time, if I'm moving too fast, if you have a question, don't hesitate to stop. If we don't get all the way through this activity, we will, the main thing I want to look at is teaching you how to create your own calculations. That's what we talked about last week. If we get to the interactive dashboard, that will be a plus. Give me just one. Okay, so within the worksheet, you're going to select any cell in the data array, and then you're going to move from the home ribbon to the insert ribbon. And on the insert ribbon, we're going to go to the tables group, and we're going to click on table. When you click on table, what it does is it populates this little window and it says, okay, here's the data that we're going to put into your table, A1 through G701. That does have the absolute reference applied to it. There should be a check mark in my table has headers, as our headers are country, product, units sold, revenue, cost, profit, and date. When you click on OK, it is going to give you another ribbon called Table Design, because we now have taken this table array, this data array, and turned it into a table data array. And over to the left, we have what's called Table 1. I am going to rename this table so that we know what is in here. And I'm just going to say that these are my cookie sales. Now, when you're naming a table, you need to make sure that you don't put any spaces. You'll note that I put cookie sales and I just ran it all together. You could put an underscore in between cookie and sales if you would like to, but if you do put a space, Excel is not going to accept the name of your table, and it will ask you to enter the name again. So when I hit the enter key, or just click outside of cookie tables, what I want to do to test that is currently I am in cell A1. So if I look at my name box, if I click on the down arrow, I can see that I have cookies 1. Now, if you have multiple tables within your workbook, they will all be listed here regardless of what worksheet you are on. For instance, if I come over to my dashboard and I click on the down arrow, I still see cookie sales, and it will take me back to the data to that table. So it will list all of the tables within the workbook. Are there any questions about inserting the table? Okay. Once you have the table in, we're going to go ahead, we're going to go back to the insert ribbon. And on the insert ribbon, we are going to go ahead and we're going to insert a pivot table. So when you click on pivot table, it comes up, it will populate this window, and it says the table or range is cookie sales. Now, if you named yours something different, if you named your table something different than I did, Yours will say whatever you named your table, or if you didn't name your table, it might just say table 1. At any rate, as long as it has a name in there, you did insert a table. If you did not insert a table, it will say A1 colon G701 with the absolute reference applied. So that is just the table or range of cookie sales. We do want to put this in a new worksheet. No, I don't want it on top of this other data. So the default is just fine. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click on OK. And when I click on OK, it inserts my pivot table. It gives us a new worksheet, and it has a little bit of a different look to it. So if you were with me last week, this is a familiar look to you. I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to rename this my pivot table calculations. We'll call it PT Calcs. So what we're going to do is we want to look at just a couple of things. I want to look at country. If you recall from last week, let me make this a little bit bigger. If you recall from last week, we have 5 different countries: India, Malaysia, the Philippines, the United Kingdom, and the United States. Welcome, welcome if you're just joining us. So we have 5 countries, and what I want to do is I want to know the total profit that we made off of each one of these cookies. So I'm just going to go ahead and click on profit, and it lists the profit for me. So here is my sum of profit. Remember, it defaults to sum, but that's just adding up the profit for each one of the countries. The next thing that I'd like to do is just put this in order from largest to smallest. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click inside of column B, anywhere from B4 to B8. And I'm going to right click, I'm going to come down to sort, and I'm going to tell it that I want it to view largest to smallest. And what it will do is it automatically brings column A along with it. So that's something that's a little bit different from a typical spreadsheet. If you're doing a sort and you only have one column selected, it will pop up and say, hey, do you want to include the rest of the columns? In the pivot table, it automatically brings the data, whether that's one additional column or several, with it without asking you that question. So we now can see that India was the biggest profit for the Kevin's Cookie Company, down to the Philippines, which is just under $500,000 of profit to the Kevin Cookie Company. All right, so we have our profit, and I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to change the sum of profit, and I'm going to rename this. The profit for, and this data was for 2019 and 2020. I'm just going to set that name. Now, the next thing that I want to do is, if I'm going to do some projections, or some what ifs, which is, originally years ago when we talked about the spreadsheets, it was always the what if this and what if that. So it hasn't changed much. We're still going to go to the what if. I want to know what it would be, what the profit would be if we were to increase the profit by 10%. However, if you come into the value field settings and look at all of the calculations, we have sum, count, average, max, min, product, and so on. I could pull this down, but I don't want to click on another one. We have nothing that will calculate what is 10% of our total profit. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to click on cancel. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here to the calculations group. In the calculations group, we have something called fields, items, and sets. Underneath fields, items, and sets, I'm going to go to the calculated field. And what this does is it populates this window and it says, okay, what's the name of the field? And you can see that we have all of our fields down here to work with. So my field name is going to be 10% increase. And we'll just go along with these dates in 2021. So we're looking at some different options. In order for it to automatically calculate the 10%, there's a couple of ways that we can handle this. We can go in and we can tell it that, notice that I moved my cursor down to the formula. So now I'm going to write a formula just like I would any other time. And what I want to do is I want to take my profit. So I'm going to double click on profit, because this is my profit. And I want to multiply that by, and we could say that we want to multiply it by 10%, and it will just give me the 10%. And actually, I'll just go ahead and do that by 10%. When I click on OK, here is my sum of profits. So So I can't use the same name in the titles as my field. So that's why it went ding and I had to change this. So I could tell it that I want this, and we can see that 10% for India would be 60,000, 59,000, all the way down to 49,000 for the Philippines. Now, if you are mathematically inclined, that's probably a pretty easy thing to look at. What's 10% of and recognize that it's going to be, 60,000, 59, 57, 40, 49,000 for Malaysia and the Philippines. Let's say that you want to change this. Let's say you're looking at this and you're saying, no, I really don't want 10%. I think I want 15%. So what you can do is you can go back up to calculated fields, and you can add another one for 15%, or maybe you just say, I think I'm just going to modify this. So I'm going to modify the 10%, and I'm going to tell it that I want it to be 15%. So I'm going to say 15%, and then we're just going to profit times 15%, click on OK, and I thought that it would, that's interesting, let me go back. Oh, it added it. I thought that I was modifying, which is just fine. Let me go back in. Let's go back to the 10%. Oh, maybe I didn't click on modify. We'll just go ahead and we'll delete the 10% and say okay. And now we have our 15%. So we have our 15%, and that's 90,000 all the way down to 73,000. So some pretty simple calculations. If you want to, now I can come up and I can say, okay, now what I want it to do is I'm going to calculate another field, and this is going to be my oopsie. %15 increase, whoops, I can't spell, plus the 1920 profit. So then I can come down to my formula, and I can just say that I want the profit plus the 15%. Click on OK, and there it gives me my total. So I can go ahead and get rid of that sum of. Do I have that already? Oh, I do, don't I? I'll just put an asterisk after it. That'll make it happy. So I could do that. What I could have done from the very get-go is I'm just going to go in, I'm going to delete some of these fields. So I'm going to go back into my calculated field. I'm going to click on the down arrow, and I'm going to tell it that I want to delete the 15%, And then I'm going to go to my down arrow and I'm going to tell it that I want to delete the two together. And we're back to where we started. Now, what you can do if you want to for the calculated fields is I'll just go back to 10% increase. And then I can come down and I can tell it that I want my profit times, and then in parentheses, 1 plus 10%. So what that's going to do is it's going to calculate the 10% and add the 10% to the profit for 2019, 2020. So when I click on OK, it doesn't just give me the 60,000, it gives me the sum. So if this is my goal for 2021, then by increasing my sales by 10%, this is how it would increase to. So I'm about 2.3 million, and that puts me just over $3 million profit with a 10% increase. So if you want to continue looking at these sorts of things, I can certainly come back up to calculated field, and this time I can say 20% increase. And I'm just going to go ahead and take my profit times, and then in parentheses, the 1 plus 20%. And click on OK. And then it gives me what 20% would be. So I can sit here and I can look at this. And I could go through and do 30, 40, 50, whatever you would like. But that's how you're going to go in and create your own calculations. So again, you start by giving it a field name. Then you go into the formula and you write your formula just like you would in an Excel worksheet rather than going to the calculated fields. So you can use the current fields, or you can create your own fields with the calculations in it. If you want to modify one, if I want to click on the 10%, or if I want to modify it, I can go to 10% and I can click on modify. And now I'm just going to go ahead. Let's see if I can change this to 15% and this to 15%. Now it wants to add it, which I can go ahead and add it and click on it. Okay, and that gives me my 15%. Now, you'll notice that when I added this, it goes 10, 20, 50, 20, 15%. I can, if I want the 15% to be in order, I can just move over here in values. I can move the 15% up in between 10 and 20, and it will go 10, 15, 20% accordingly. So however you have them listed underneath values, that is how they are going to play out in the different columns, B, C, D, E, and so on. So that's an example of creating your own calculated fields. Now, I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to hide this because the next thing that I want to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to work on our dynamic dashboard. I don't see any questions. Keep in mind that this is being recorded. If you I do not get these recordings. If you have, if you're in Accelerate or you have, been in an Accelerate cohort in the past, you know that I keep the that I keep the recordings for Accelerate. However, these recordings go to the DoSpace on their server. So you would have to contact the DoSpace if you wanted a copy or to find out where this is. So let me go ahead and give you the name of a contact at the DoSpace. You can contact Josh. And his contact is jdavis@dospace.org. Of course, if you can't find this or you forget where you put it, you can always email me and I can forward it to you, or I can forward the email to Josh. But just to let you know, that is a contact at the DoSpace. You can also call over there. They are in the process of utilizing their YouTube channel again. There for a while they weren't, but they are uploading everything to their YouTube channel. Again, and I'll show you that again towards the end if you didn't catch it. All right, so now we're going to work on our dynamic dashboard. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to insert and I'm going to go to pivot table. On my pivot table, we know that everything is set up correctly. So here is my table and my range, the cookie sales. Here's the new worksheet. So I'm just going to go ahead and click on OK. For this particular activity, I know that I'm going to need 3 various pivot tables. So I'm going to go ahead and I am going to create my 3 pivot tables before I move on, because it's a little bit faster to copy them now rather than go back and go through that same process. So I'm going to take sheet 2, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to hover my mouse over sheet 2. I'm going to hold down the control key. And I'm just going to pull to the right, and notice how I get that little paper with the plus sign. When I let up, it gives me sheet 2 with the 2 in parentheses, and it's another pivot table worksheet. Again, I'm just going to hold down the control key, hover my mouse over sheet 2 with the 2 in parentheses, and pull it to the right, let up on my mouse, and it gives me sheet 2 with a 3 in parentheses. So I'm going to go ahead and back to sheet 2. The first table that we are going to create, or chart that we're going to create, is profit by quarter. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and for my profit by quarter, what I am going to do is I am going to insert a pivot chart. I want a line chart. Oops, I guess first of all I need to click on some data, huh? Okay, so let's click on cancel for a second. What do I want to be in here? Profit by quarter. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select profit and product. I'll make that a little bit bigger so it's easier for you to see. Now that I have some data in my pivot table, I can insert a pivot chart. And I'm kind of laughing at myself there for getting ahead of myself. But here is my data. So I'm just going to go ahead and click on OK. And it gives me my pivot line chart. Now I don't need a lot of the stuff that is on here, so I'm going to clean this up a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and see where it says sum of profit. If I right click, I can hide all, this is a field button. I can hide all field buttons on the chart. So I'm not deleting them, I'm just hiding them. And that's going to hide sum of profit and products. So that cleans that up. I don't need my total because I know that this is the total. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to delete that. The name of this particular chart, because remember, we're going to copy this and we're going to move it over to our dashboard, to our dynamic dashboard, which is static right now. So a couple of other things that I want to do is I'm going to go over to design, and I'm just going to make this a darker background so it's easier to see. I'm going to go to chart elements, and I am going to insert data labels, maybe just above. Let's see what that looks like. They're kind of crunched in there. What happens if I get rid of my axis? Not too bad. So that doesn't look too bad. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to make a couple of other changes. I'm going to change my font to Georgia, and I'm going to make this in boldface. And again, I can move these around. You know, if you want to move these, I can move these. up a little or down a little, so they're a little easier to see. If I could put that one below and maybe this one below, makes it a little easier to see. So there are leader lines. This is a leader line with the 434,000, showing you what to do. So I'm just gonna go ahead, I'm gonna copy this, I'm gonna move it over to my dashboard, and I'm gonna paste that in. Now, I'm not gonna worry about my dashboard right now. Once we get the 3 charts in, then we'll come back and we'll look at making it look a little bit sharper. All right, so that's my first chart that I want on my dynamic dashboard. The second one is, oops, you know what? Oh, it did have dollars in it. Okay. The next one is going to be units sold each quarter. I'm just gonna put units sold per quarter. Okay. I really need to slow down because I'm not doing this right. All right. Okay. So I put in the product, the profit. I did not put in the date. So if we're looking at my quarter, what it did was when I put the date in, it broke it out into years, quarters, months, and dates. I'm just gonna take the year out. I apologize. I'm gonna take the year out. I'm gonna take the months out. I'm gonna take the date out. There we go. That's what I was looking for. Oh boy. So let's go ahead and copy this and go back over to my dashboard. We'll delete that one, put this one in. That looks a lot better. Now, why does that have a 5 there? Think if we just gonna do reduce the decimal to 0. I should have all done. There we go. Okay, so now I'm gonna copy this over to my dashboard. So that's my profit by quarter. Now, I'm going to go back over to units sold per quarter. And we'll go back to my pivot table analyze, and where is my field list? There we go. Okay, so my units sold per quarter. So what I'm going to want is units sold and by quarter, and here are my units sold by quarter. I'm going to go ahead and insert another pivot chart. And that's going to be another line chart. I'm just going to go ahead and click on OK. And we'll clean this one up. I'm just going to hide the buttons. I'm going to delete the total. Let's go ahead and put in the name of this particular line chart. And then I'm going to go to design, and I'm going to make it look like my other chart just for consistency. I'll go ahead and add in the data labels, which were just above. Then I'll go to the home ribbon, and we're going to change this to Georgia. And I'll see what font size I use, but I'm just going to go ahead and copy this. We'll go back over to our dashboard, and we'll paste this one in. What font size is that? That's 9. Okay. So let's just make this consistent. We'll make it 11. This one 11. Okay, so we've got 2 ready to go. Now we're going to go to sheet 3, and our last chart is going to be profit by country and cookie. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put the country in, and then I'm going to have that go into the rows. And I'm going to take product, and I'm going to put that in columns. And then I'm going to go ahead and click on profit, and that will bring all of my data in. So I have the countries in the rows. I have the product by cookies in the columns. And you can see that it gives me the grand total for the cookies and the grand total for each country. So what I want to do from here is I'm going to take my grand total, and I'm going to do a right click, and I'm going to tell it that I want to sort this. And I'm going to sort this from largest to smallest. So again, you see that India is the biggest seller down to the Philippines. Then I want to also organize my cookies in the same manner. So I'm going to come down, I'm going to click in row 10, and I'm going to right click, and I'm going to tell it that I want these to sort largest to smallest. So you can see that the chocolate chip cookie is the most popular, over to the fortune cookie, which is about 123,000, I guess, if you can roll. If you're looking at this, about 123,000, if we're going to estimate that. So with this information, we're going to go ahead and we are going to go to pivot table analyze. We'll go ahead and insert another pivot chart. This time we're going to go to columns, and I like columns and I like bars, and I really like this stacked column. So there's a reason that I went in and I put the totals from largest to smallest in both scenarios, because what the stat column does for us is it goes ahead and it says, okay, here is, I need to make this a little bit bigger so we can see our legend. There's chocolate chip cookie. Chocolate chip cookie was our biggest seller. So it not only gives the cookie, but it also gives the country. So here is India with the most sales, all the way down to the Philippines, and the chocolate chip cookie all the way down to the fortune cookie, which was the smallest. So this color-coded clustered column is pretty cool. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hide the values. I think I need to keep these. That's going to be an awful lot of data on there if I get rid of those and try to put data labels on. We'll go ahead and go to the design ribbon and stick with my design. The one thing that I do need to add to it is a chart title. So I'm just going to come over to on the design ribbon to add chart element. And I'm going to tell it that I want it to be above the chart. And we'll just, in the chart title, we're going to say that this is going to be profit by country and cookie. I'm going to go ahead and go back to the home ribbon, change this to Georgia. And you change it to 11. All right. So now I'm just going to copy this over to my dashboard. We'll go ahead and make room for this. Now I'm zoomed to 190%, which is part of why these appear to be so big. Paste that in. Now I want these to all be the same size. So let me go down to 100%. I know that makes it a little bit hard. Whoops, going the wrong way. Makes it a little bit harder for you to see, but I want to make sure that these are all the same size. So what you can do to size them all at the same time is to select one of the charts and hold down the control key. And then you're going to right click and you're going to go to size and properties. So I can tell it that I want the height to be 4, and you might have to play around with this a little bit, and the width to be 5. Oh, here, I'll just put it in the, so 4, enter, why isn't it accepting my 5? That's a little bit too much. Why is it doing that? Okay, let's see what these look like. Not too bad. I just pulled this out a little bit so the white chocolate macadamia nuts wasn't on that particular label, wasn't on 2 lines. All right, so we have our 3 charts, and they look relatively okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and select one of the charts, and I'm going to go back to the pivot table analyze. And we're going to go ahead, we're going to insert our timeline. So when I go to insert timeline, it says, okay, which one do you want to insert? There's only one. So we're going to insert the date and click on OK. You'll note that it will give me another ribbon for the timeline. I can change colors if I want to. There's just lots of fun things that you can do. Maybe we'll grab the purple. That's kind of festive. And we can go ahead and I can pull this out if I would like. And what I can do with this is if I want to look at a particular month, let's say I just want to look at December of 2019. When I click on that, it will tell me that in December of 2019, it sold, the profit by quarter was 136,000. This is profit by quarter, so that doesn't make much sense to go to a month. Let's go ahead and change this to quarters. And you can see that in quarter 4 of 2019, it was just 524,000. So by sliding this, I can look at just certain data. Now you may have noticed that, I'm going to go ahead and turn off this filter, clear this filter, that only profit by quarter is moving when I'm looking at this timeline. That is because I need to report connections to the other 2 charts. So what I'm going to do on my timeline is I'm going to come up here to report connections, and I'm going to put a check mark in tables 2 and 3, click on OK. And now if I say I just want the data for maybe 2019, so I'm going to select quarters 1, 2, 3, and 4 just for 2019. You can see that That's interesting. Why is it giving me? Let's try this. Oh, you know what? I bet this isn't. I'm just trying to figure out why it's not giving me quarter four. And you think it's because it's not wide enough? Hmm. Well, back up there. Odd. Right, but it's not giving me the quarter four for the profit by quarter when it's giving me a quarter four for the units sold, which doesn't make any sense to me. So I'm just gonna put quarter four on. Okay, there's quarter four. Oh, wait a second. It's almost like it is. Oh, there we go. That's what the problem is. Okay. So now let's try this again. So the issues stem back to my mistake early on with the profit by quarter. And there's another, I should have deleted that other chart. That's where it comes in. Okay. So again, there's your timeline. Now let's go ahead and go back to pivot table analyze. And now we're going to insert the slicers. So I'm going to insert country and product and click on OK. And now I have two slicers that I can play around with. So let me go ahead and move those down here. I'm just going to go ahead and unpin my ribbon. I'm going to go to full screen mode so it's easier to see everything. But before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and report the connections to all of the tables for both of my slicers. That's product, and go back over to country. Okay, now I can go ahead and go into the full screen mode. And what the slicers do, I'll go ahead and clear the filter on my timeline. Let's say that I want to look at a specific product. So if I want to look at, chocolate chip, and I'm going to hold down my control key. I want to look at oatmeal raisin, and I want to look at sugar. I just want to look at those three. So now my charts are just representing those three. Now, what if I just want to look at the United Kingdom? So there is the United. Oh, I'm sorry. I took out the United Kingdom. So let me go ahead and put those back in. Let's just say that I want to look at the India, Malaysia, the so as I click around on these, you can see that it will manipulate the data, looks like I don't have all of my countries in there. So the slicers act like filters as well. So I can go ahead and I can select just maybe chocolate chip and the fortune cookie, and I want to tell it that I just want India, Malaysia, and the Philippines. So by clicking on these, I am eliminating them from the picture. So if I click on these, if I click on Malaysia, it's just going to have India. Filter. And put in my filter. So you can look at 2020 or quarters 2 and 3. Yeah, I'm sorry, there's been some technical glitches. I think I was in such a hurry to make sure that I got through all the information, but I actually moved too fast. So if you have any questions, I certainly can answer them via email, but we're not quite done yet. So you just play around with these. And what we're going to do is we're going to come over here, we're going to grab our new data. So when you grab your new data, we don't want to include the fields because we already have the fields in our existing data. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click in A2, and then I'm just going to hit the Control Shift and the down arrow, and then the arrow to the right, and I'm going to copy this information. I'm going to move back to my data ribbon, and I'm going to move down to my last row. I'm going to go to my first blank row, which is 702. I'm going to paste this in. Now, you'll note that when I pasted these additional 525 lines in, it added them to my to my table. However, let's go back to the dashboard. You won't see anything new on the dashboard quite yet. And that is because in a pivot table, I need to select one of the charts to bring back my pivot table and analyze. On pivot table analyze, you need to tell it to refresh all. And when I do that, it will now represent 2021. So you can see in the timeline now I have 2021. These dashboards are built so that if you're sharing data with people, you can go in or teach them how to use obviously the timeline and the slicers, but then you can hide all of these other worksheets, and simply if you want to add data on a daily basis or a weekly basis, a monthly basis, whatever the case may be, even if you're running your own business, if you go in, and add information on a daily basis, and you'd rather look at this via charts than just raw data, because like they say, a picture is worth 1,000 words, a chart is priceless. That's my saying, by the way. I don't know if anybody else says that, but a chart really is priceless when it comes to looking at data in Microsoft Excel. So if you have your own business and you want to add things in, that way, if you're looking at, okay, what did I do last year? What type of business did I do last year during Millard days or whatever the case may be, depending on what your business is. But if you have a certain time frame, if you want to go back and say, okay, what was the demand for chocolate chip cookies and oatmeal raisin and snickerdoodle? You can take a look at that and determine, maybe what do you want to do this year? Again, going back to the calculations that we did earlier. You could even go back and say, okay, now I want to look at this, what did we do last year? What if I want to increase my sales by 20%? So with the pivot table, you can have it do all of this for you, including the what if with the your own calculations. Granted, you could use a calculator, but that's no fun. And you have all of this documented so that you can go back and look at it on your interactive dashboard. Okay, yeah, I'm glad that you thought it was cool. So again, here is Josh's email at the do space. So if you're looking for any of the recordings, you can get a hold of Josh at jdavis@dospace.org. You can also call out to the do space and they'd be happy to help you out, or you can email me and I'll forward the email to them. Again, thank you very much. I apologize for the couple of technical glitches that I had, or maybe they were just mental glitches on my part throughout the hour, but I hope that you found this to be valuable. As always, a big shout out to the Do Space for everything that they do for the greater Omaha area. Next week, what are we doing next week? Let's just take a quick look. We've got a minute left here. Calendar next Friday is going to be the 21st of February. 14. Oh, the MS Excel, the Power Query. Yes. So we're going to do the next couple of weeks, we're doing Power Query and Power Pivot. So make sure and join me. I am getting the list of participants from the Do Space to send the templates to you for you to work along at home. Going forward, I promise that I will slow down a little bit so you can actually work with me. I believe I was going just a tad bit too fast, but I won't try to put so much in going forward so that you can work along with me. But I do get a list. If you don't have anything from me by 11:30, then shoot me an email at jdospace@gmail.com and I can share those templates with you before our webinar starts. And at that, have a great weekend, everybody. Happy Valentine's Day. Stay safe. It looks like it's sleeting a little bit out there, so be careful and have a fantastic weekend. Take care. Yeah, Alan, absolutely. Let me go ahead and